Cloudy, foggy, December 7th, 2022, Pearl Harbor Day. Must remember, never forget. Well, hopefully today I'll get bombarded with mainline trains at a couple of triple track stations. We're at Carle Place, between Westbury and Mineola, and you're getting a good look at this wide expanse that this station has that it never had before. And it's got a 12-car platform on both sides. Standing next to track 3, used for westbounds primarily, and track 2 is at the other end with the other platform. And the name is proudly displayed on the footbridge here. The new triple track is open. It's not quite complete, but they're using all 3 tracks now. It's a superbly engineered broad way. You can see this station is located in a residential area, and the residents of these homes were traumatized by this triple track construction. You'll note the soundproof walls that have been erected. Tell you, on the main line, you never know what to expect here. You can see just about anything and everything. Coming east on track number 2, the middle track, looks like a set of light engines. A couple of MP15 ACs, primarily used in work train service. Nostalgic EMD end cabs. You can hear them revving up a little bit as he goes by. 153 and 165 locomotive numbers. On this warm, un-December-like day where it's 57 degrees, you can hear the horn of the M7 piercing the damp air. Train 1706, New York to Huntington. He'll be stopping here. The only track that's being used right now is the far track, number 2.
Please activate e-tickets now and step over the gap when boarding.
Many consider the M7's on the Long Island Railroad to be the best MUs built these days. Well, the AC motors on those definitely grab your attention. With the west end of the platform alongside track number 3. No doubt these people were traumatized by this construction also. And also a soundproof wall was built. Okay, more diesel action. 234, here comes westbound New York and Atlantic train RS41 heading back to Fresh Pond in Queens. Boy, that sounded like a steam locomotive going by. Like He had a PR-20 and an MP-15 and a bunch of scrap metal cars. Came from One World in Lindenhurst. I think that was Al piloting the train. 243 coming west on track 2 is train 2053. Ronkonkoma to New York. Can barely see him coming in this fog. All right, 250 arriving on track 2. Heading west to New York from Huntington is train 1705. Track 3 is out of service for track work for now. Get to listen to the unique sound of these Bombardier-built M7 cars. Extremely popular MUs by employees on the railroad. They make music, starting and stopping. Definitely a different sound from the M9's, which sort of sound like a scraping noise. And of course the M3's really don't make any noise. We're coming east out of the fog at 3:01 is train 2054 from New York to Ronkonkoma as church bells peal in the background. Here comes train 1250, New York to Hicksville. He'll be stopping here. Okay, approaching at 3:16 is train 2055, Ronkonkoma to New York. Track 3 is now open. They usually finish the track work around 3 o'clock. This guy will be blowing by. At 3:25, about to emerge from the fog and the mist, is train 2772 en route from Jamaica to Patchogue. You'll have DE-30AC 415 powering the train with spaghetti and meatballs at the throttle. That guy everywhere. All right, 328 coming in westbound. On track 3 is train 1707 from Huntington to New York. Pretty much all the Huntington trains stop here. Standing out here in this weather, I feel like I'm on the outskirts of London. And now we move west on the triple track to the hot spot of Mineola. We're standing where the old Main Street crossing used to be, and where you see that ramp on the right with the red fencing on the side is where Nassau Tower used to be. Since my last visit, they're building a footbridge here. Yeah, the triple track may be complete, but some of the construction work is still in progress. On the platform looking east, we're standing alongside track 3, and you can see Nassau 2 interlocking and the connections to the Oyster Bay branch. All Oyster Bay branch trains going in and out have to use this track. This was done to avoid crossover moves over the main. And they took the position light signal down since my last visit and installed these restricted aspect signals. Approaching at 3:58 is train 1709 en route from Huntington to New York. No more railroad crossings to blow the horn for down there. Passing by the restricted aspect signal 2-3E. Got an eastbound Oyster Bay train due soon, so that track will be used and the switch will be thrown and the signal will be lined. All right, he's got the signal on the far switch here is thrown for the branch. Not all the railroad crossings in Mineola are gone. The 2nd Street crossing on the Oyster Bay branch is still here. It's just after it curves off the main line. Gonna wait for 5:56. All right, 407, about to enter the Oyster Bay branch is train 556. Jamaica to Oyster Bay. It's got D38C 422. That's got a pretty loud K5LL horn. But not on this day. It's my last visit in September. All 3 tracks are open all the way to Hicksville. So we'll get a chance to see how this rush hour plays out with these 3 tracks. Previously, the 3rd track ended at Nassau 3. Nassau 1 is west of here and east of Maryland Avenue. Nassau 2 is where those Oyster Bay branch switches are. And Nassau 3 is further east past those distant signals. 417 speeding east down track 1, the center track, is train 656 en route from Hunters Point Avenue to Port Jefferson. The first of the rush hour fleet to Port Jefferson. Train 1716, New York Huntington at 4:21. Should have an interesting westbound coming on number 3. The laser train was working on the Oyster Bay branch and the Port Jeff branch out to Huntington today. He's returning to Jamaica. Laser train that uses lasers to get residue and leaves off the rails. 36 coming east on 1 is 2058 from New York to Ronkonkoma. So far today it's been an M7 show, other than the diesels. Of course, this triple track isn't being used to its fullest potential, as we're still running on the current schedules that we've had for quite some time. But when Grand Central opens, hopefully by the end of this month, you'll have more Ronkonkoma trains going through here. Off-hour service will be every 30 minutes as opposed to an hour for the most part. The Oyster Bays and the Port Jeffs and other diesels that go through here, as well as the Huntington, should be pretty much the same. 437, here's 1713, Huntington, New York, coming in for his Mineola station stop. Coming in on 2 is 1718, New York Huntington. He'll be making a stop here. Mineola has always been an interesting place to watch trains, but there was one time I came to Mineola where I wasn't here to watch trains and I was pretty nervous. That's when I went to Winthrop Hospital in 2017 and had my prostate removed. That overpass above is Mineola Boulevard. It used to be the location of an old overpass, and it had soot marks on it from steam and diesel exhaust. Now they have this newer bridge over the tracks. Okay, coming in at 4:55 on track number 2 is train 658 en route from Penn Station, New York to Port Jefferson. He stops here. Assuming that the anticipated East Side Access schedules are followed, when East Side Access opens, this train will no longer originate in Penn Station. It will instead originate in Hunters Point Avenue. It will swap roles with 664. That will originate in Penn. Arriving at 4:58 is 2059 from Ronkonkoma to New York. Next up at 4:59 is 2060, New York Ronkonkoma blasting through. Track speed is 80 miles an hour on all 3 tracks through here. Less congestion should be enjoyed with these 3 tracks. 501, coming off the Oyster Bay branch is train 555. Oyster Bay to Jamaica. Coming off Oyster Bay branch track 1 and going on to mainline track number 3. And those things still make a thundering roar when they start up. Enjoy them while they can. Whether they still can, they're going to get charges eventually. Move to the west end of the station, bearing down on track number 1. I got to get used to these track numbers. Train 1722, New York Huntington. You'll be blowing on by. Fast up 2096 west of here, then ride from Atlantic Terminal to Ronkonkoma. It's a local. 512 arriving on track number 2 is 2096. A real local docal from Atlantic Terminal to Ronkonkoma.
Train to Ronkonkoma is now arriving at track 2. Please activate e-tickets now.
521, here comes train 2062, New York Ronkonkoma flying through. Well, all I can tell you is if you like M7's, you're going to love this video. That's all I've seen. 524 on 1 is train 660 barreling down on us en route from New York to Port Jefferson. As far as I know, that will not be affected when the new schedules go into effect when ESA opens. But you never know. They may not have finalized those schedules yet. Heard some air hissing in there between some of those cars. 655. That's en route from Port Jeff to Jamaica. He actually deadheads to Long Island City afterwards by at 5:30. Okay, 5:33 approaching his train 2061 from Ronkonkoma to New York. He'll be stopping here. Hopefully you'll get to see something interesting behind this train as far as the signals go. Okay, train 560 from Long Island City to Oyster Bay is slowing west of here. He's got to wait for clearance to enter this track number 3 to access the Oyster Bay branch. It's one of the problems with the design. There it is. You just threw the switch and you'll note the signal. 560 will be coming in next after 2061 departs. Okay, arriving on track 3 at 5:39 is train 560. Long Island City to Oyster Bay. They all have to use this track to go to and from the Oyster Bay branch. One of the problems with the design of this triple track and the Oyster Bay branch. The best way to do it would be to have a flyover, but I guess the cost would be prohibitive. Yeah, they did take some shortcuts in designing this. They have a 15-mile-an-hour switch west of Floral Park from tracks 4 to 2, which the trains that stop at Elmont for the main line would have to use, and that will slow them up quite a bit. All right, he did his station work further west. He's pulling out. He's got DE30AC number 418, which has a fairly decent K5LA. Let's see if we can hear him good when he blows for the crossing at 2nd Street around the curve. seem to be blowing easy for that crossing. And we witnessed 2064 departing Mineola at 5:45 bound for Ronkonkoma en route from New York. Behind him is train 662 en route from Hunters Point Avenue to Port Jefferson. And you should have 2740 barreling right behind them on number 1 track. 5:47 arriving on track number 2 is train 662, Hunters Point Avenue to Port Jefferson. This and the following diesel 2740 from New York to Spionk are referred to as the Bobbsey twins. But with this triple tracking, if 2740 is on time, which he's not, he's about 5 minutes late tonight, but that's defined as being on time. But if he was on the mark on the schedule, he would pass this train here. He wouldn't have to chase him all the way to Hicksville. Track 3 is lined for an eastbound. Heard a lot of thump, thump, thump today. Well, here comes 2740 New York Spionk on number 1, but he has no signal. Is this guy still chasing 662? Get this restriction? He just got the signal. East on 1. He's probably going to cross over to 2 at Nassau 3 and follow the 662. 1726 New York Huntington at 5:52 on 3. This demonstrates the flexibility. That guy can fly through here at track speed, run around that Spionk and that other Port Jeff train, and switch onto the Port Jeff branch at Hicksville and not be delayed. All right, at 5:56 coming east on number 1 is a hot shot, 2066 New York Ronkonkoma. Non-stop from New York to Wyandanch. On 3, it caught me by surprise. 602. That was 1728 Atlantic Terminal to Huntington. All right, at 608 we got a couple of eastbounds. They're going to be stopping on track 3. First is 2352 from New York to Farmingdale. Behind it will be 1256 from New York to Hicksville. Yeah, it's been an M7 show, other than the diesels. From what other fans are telling me, there are no M3s and no M9s running on this line tonight, at least while I'm here. All right, at 6:14, arriving is an infamous train. Train 1256 from New York to Hicksville. On this exact date, 1993, Carle Ferguson was on board this train. He went on a shooting spree, killing 6 people and injuring 19 others. Kind of interesting that I would catch this train today. This train, for the longest time, always operated on, well, if you could call it the wrong main. Well, it's still doing that even with 3 tracks. But you really couldn't call it the wrong main, since you can run either way on either track. Before they triple tracked this, that train always ran on track 1. That was mainly to allow express trains to overtake it, and usually a couple of them do. 6:20, this is 562 Jamaica Oyster Bay. He doesn't stop here, but he's got to take it easy. Going through the switch here at Nassau 2. East now at 6:22 is train 664, arrived from Long Island City to Port Jefferson. When East Side Access opens, this train will originate in Penn Station, New York. Huh. 4 cars. I remember as recently as the late 90s, that train had 11. And when I was a kid, it had about 17. 6:25, approaching is train 1732, en route from New York to Huntington, non-stop through here. And New York to Huntington non-stop, that would be pretty impressive. They'd have to get an awful lot of business to justify that kind of a service. Here comes 2072 New York Ronkonkoma on 1. All right, 6:35 on 1. We got a long distance train, 2716, Jamaica to Montauk. It's got 423 on the point. Well, on this day, we saw quite a bit of variety. We saw light engines, we saw a freight train, saw the laser train, diesel passenger train, and tons of M7's. But we're going to stick around for one more train, 2076 from New York, or excuse me, Atlantic Terminal to Ronkonkoma, and he will have M9's. All right, our last train is 2076, Atlantic Terminal to Ronkonkoma, Kawasaki M9's. Hope you enjoyed the heavy-duty action.